Welcome to the first episode of the Expanded Founder. This has been coming through me for months. I didn't even realize what was happening. All I know is that I felt like I was in the in-between for ages, for years almost, which is true because the Expanded Founder came about through spirituality and sales, literally my life. My first 20 years of career spent in sales. My second today is the first birthday, the 12th birthday, I think. Yeah, 12th birthday of my business. And it's evolved. We've changed names, we've done lots of things, and this is I think this is my fourth podcast. I just like to do them, talk. It's my creative outlet. I get to talk to you. And what's really interesting is that, as I said, for 12 years I've been doing this. And we started off with my business Open for Life, and then that evolved. And I've been on this trajectory of no sales for a really long time. Not no sales in my business. Like, clearly I support myself and I have a living. I run a living. What does he call it? I'm so excited. The energy is like, I can feel it coming through me. I was doing a little bit of a blessing before I came on because, of course, because I'm launching something today, I woke up with a headache. So that means my intuition is clogged up. So I think we're just going to start with a little blessing for the podcast, for the community who's coming in and listening and joining me, for the expansion itself, because I've been on a trajectory. I'm the founder of, if you don't know who I am, I'm Erin Trethowan. I'm the founder of soloboard.com, which is an AI boardroom led by sales, basically. So I took my 20 years in corporate and I was trying to work out what I was doing with my life and why I wasn't getting the results that I used to get for people when I was in corporate. I was like, what's happening? Hello, You're Becoming, which is my last podcast. So we did Open for Life podcast for a little bit. We did Your Abundance podcast, and we did You're Becoming, and now the Expanded Founder. I feel like that's my life. Open for Life. Then I became a solid mum. Your Abundance. Then we did You're Becoming because things were evolving, which is why I've put this podcast together, and there's going to be programs off it and there's going to be lots of things that come with it because, look, this has been an evolution, and I know anybody who is in my world or attracted to my world will be navigating the tangible and the intuitive. And I'm highly intuitive myself. It's something that I had to learn to navigate. And to be honest, that I think that's what part of my entrepreneurial journey was. But when I started in my business, I hit six figures in 3 years, but I was really navigating this after a certain point, this anti no sales. And then I realized that was tied to other things. So this last couple of months since I launched soloboardroom.com a couple of months ago, built that in the Replit Buildathon, which was freaking incredible. Loved it. And we got sales straight away. We got traction straight away. And then, boom, exactly the same process. Exactly the same thing landed in my lap, which was, what's going on? Why is this person who is literally a lead magnet? Because that's what I did. I used to sell for a living. That's what I did for 20 years. And I never missed a budget in 20 years. And never, I was making millions for companies. And then when I started in my business, I transferred those skills into counseling, coaching, because at the time, to be honest, I was bullied really badly in one of my jobs, and it made me question my genius zone. And so I went looking for a new genius zone, which was not wrong. It was just that they actually blended together. So I'm highly intuitive, which is my genius zone, and I'm a genius in sales. And I say genius, meaning that when I do my thing, I do my thing. Hence this podcast coming about. This was the transformation of bringing the two parts of myself together. And I've run spiritual programs, I've run business programs, I've helped businesses launch, I've helped people who've had businesses negotiate exits, and you name it. I've been part of it. And recently, when I built Solo Boardroom, the question I had been asking myself was, what was I doing in those businesses that over when I was doing corporate? What was I doing in those businesses that changed who I, what, no, that got the sales? And why wasn't I doing it now? And the first thing that came up was my pipeline practice. I have literally has been with me since I started selling when I was 21. And it is like a little manifesting tool in itself, if you want to talk it from that side of the coin, but it's also like an incredible business tool. And I hadn't been using it. I did at the beginning. And I think, look, there's different ways people look at this pipeline, because if you're doing online sales, you're talking, which is most of us now, like we're all talking to someone on social media or emails or whatever. I think people, because of the way it's different to structured, like we put ourselves in a box, like that's outbound sales, that's online sales, that's this, that's that. And I want to be honest, it's all just sales. So there's this real, for me, I had rejected this part, not completely, because I still used it and I've helped customers. It's got a beautiful review. Customer who come to me struggling to pay a mortgage, her husband got sick, and we turned it around in one session. But she stayed for a year, and then we really turned it around. We did strategy days and we did all the things to shift and expand her as an entrepreneur, increase her sales so that she wasn't in scarcity anymore and fear. There's still work. We could always all becoming something, which was the previous podcast. But what happens for me is I kind of get this vibe of no energy for things. If I don't have a yes, I'm a sacral in human design. I'm a 6-2. And the 2 line is when I retreat and I start to bring out this part of myself that is, it's the awakening, the co-creator part of me. And then I've got this 6 line that's out there and puts it out there and does this, talks on there on a podcast or online or does a live or whatever. And I've loved podcasts for ages, and I've overcome many things for that, perfectionism and people pleasing and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, the whole point of this is that over the last couple of months, I had to really look at my genius zone, how I was using it, but also how I wanted to become more integrated in how I then shared that with the world. And what I know about Genius Zone, I love Gay Hendricks and I love his book, The Big Leap. And I've seen it happen when I'm in my Genius Zone. Money just comes, like whether it's for me or for someone else, like it's there. And for me, after 3 years in business, my income started to be less predictable. And I was kind of grappling with these two parts of myself the whole time, which was this business part and this spiritual part. But I never really wanted to be like, oh, I'm spiritual. And then I was like, and I'm business only, because they never really, it was only, and I was always a little bit ahead of my time. I'm a bit of a early adopter of things. And so and I'm quick. I said, I'm going to launch this literally 3 days ago. I think it was Sunday. This came through, the name, the idea, and then what needed to be moved for me to do that, and then I move. That's what I do. I create momentum. I see the value in something and I'm like moving, which is how we do things. Literally launching the website, have built you a online quiz about who you are and where you're at as an expanded founder. And you can work out whether that's sales that's blocking you or whether it's intuition that's blocking you, or it could be both. So that's ready to go. I've literally built that because I'm a vibe coder. So that's come through. And I started building that yesterday and it's pretty much done. I just need to align the energies. And from that, there was this expansion into what's next for me. And I'm recording this today, but tomorrow I am recording Pipeline to Profit Masterclass, which you may listen to this and that's already passed. There will be a recording of that, which is housed in soloboardroom.com. And it's about leading with sales. But it's not the only thing. But some people need structure and some people need flow. And so this is that masculine, feminine energy we talk about. This is the thing that goes between. And majority of the time particularly with women, a lot of the time it's lack of structure in their business, because a lot of the time we're rejecting that patriarchy we may have worked in before. And so we're like, we don't want any of that. We don't want any of that. We just want flow. And then there's the other side of the coin, which I went through, which is how do I really align with my open spiritual channels, with my gifts being so open. I was going to training with my Tao masters. Francisco's always, this is Erin. She has a very open spiritual channels. That's the introduction. And if you walked into a sales room, they'd be like, this is Erin. She can sell ice to Eskimos. But the thing is, I don't sell ice to Eskimos unless they need ice. So there is a caveat in how that works from an ethical point of view for myself. And I've always had that. And so I'm bringing this expanded founder podcast out because I'm really about bringing these two things together. But there'll be one thing or another in your business that's not really aligning. And sometimes, like with mentoring, I look at the whole business system and I can look at the tech systems, your workflows, like all that, because I have a systems mind. For a long time, that's what I was doing. I was just using these tools, but different aspects. So was it business that we need to talk about, or spiritual? And they cross over like this. And then, yeah, I'd end up going, man, I went from sales feeling quite fulfilled, but also really highly bullied, where I got to the point where I couldn't speak, hilariously, that I'm now launching a podcast, which makes complete sense. But I'd shut down. Silence became the protector. But at the same time, that's when I was questioning, am I meant to be doing this anymore? Is this really my genius zone? I'm not meant to be selling, blah, 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 blah. And then went and studied my holistic counseling, and then that had its own dramas. And then evolving the business into coaching and mentoring. And then the last year has been into website design, AI tools, launch of soloboardroom.com. And that vibe coding lights me up. Love my vibe coding community because, yeah, it just awoke something in me that was really required. But then there's also the energy factor. I love the energy of build-a-thons and the building and the founder tech industry. It's like being on Twitter, sorry, X. I'm a Gen X. So yeah, Twitter. And then like my account was 12 years old and I'd never been on it for 12 years until this year. I was like, okay, I'm gonna start my Twitter account back up. So I'm now on X if you want to come over and vibe with me. But I loved what I realized, because I'm a mover. Literally on the weekend, one of my quaint connections, I'll call them, launched a book. And I was like, I just love supporting people. So I was like, yeah, I'll buy it. It was a workbook. Anyway, I was like, I'm just going to do this workbook because it was all about goals. And I'd previously been doing this with a Tony Robbins technique. And I did it. And that's when all this came through. And I went, oh, see, I can't just do this and that. It's that masculine and feminine energies. Tony's work is quite structured, but it wasn't quite getting me to where I needed to go. So I needed this other, a feminine take on Tony's work, which is actually what it was. And that kind of opened up this idea of what about freedom founders? What are people really in my world looking for? And it's usually freedom. But often in business, we feel less freedom. And in spirituality, we often feel less freedom because of the two spirituality, like my gifts were a lot more of a challenge than a lot of things that happened in my life. It made my relationships harder. It made my body work harder. It made everything became harder the more open I became, even though that was what was happening. And I was like, oh, so eventually I found the Tao, and Master Shah, and he opened up a lot of ways for my spirituality to and my channels to work better. And like the headache coming through, I was like, of course my channels need clearing before I even have this conversation. And there was also the past stuff around sales recently that has been needed, that was needing to be cleared. And I'd realized, because this is what I was going to say before I got distracted, was most professional and personal development is going to tell you do something with meaning. So when I was in sales, I thought it was about the meaning because I'd lost meaning, not through the work, but through someone questioning whether this was my genius zone through whatever, right? I'm not getting into the whole story because it's a waste of energy. But I will say that it got me to question it. But what it did for me was took me out of this 100% person, and it turned my energy into this 80% person. Even though I'm always out there, I'm 100% in. I do things I'm 100%. But it shifted that energy for me. It made me excellent, not genius, right? Because that's the shift. So Gay Hendricks talks about the zone of excellence and how we can easily be in our zone of excellence. And it's not saying that I wasn't in my genius zone doing the things that I'm doing, because in the beginning I was like, oh my God, if I was doing a family constellation or whatever, I felt so connected. But then stuff happened in that made me question that. And then the next thing came and the next thing came, and I was like, what is this? What am I meant to be doing? The entrepreneurial journey is literally a spiritual journey and a business journey in one. And so we need to navigate both of those things. And because I've done that, I brought them together as the expanded founder. And so recently, I discovered my ego, the lovely thing that it is, the monkey mind, had things became less meaningful. I would walk out of most profound room, like I'd run It's Your Destiny or I'd have a session with a customer, and the profoundness was there. And I would walk out feeling like empty. Like I feeling I was in there, but then I had this feeling in my sacral that was like empty. I was like, what next? Nothing's gonna cut it. I don't know. I don't know. And I realized over time I had made my clients' clarity the goal. I had made the contribution to the planet, the service, the goal, because that is what most entrepreneurs, professional development, personal development, spiritual development, all of them, they will all tell you to be of service. Now that works, and this is where it comes into play. Most people, money doesn't fulfill them. They want the meaning on the other side. And so they'll go for the money goals, and then they get there and they're like, wasn't fulfilled. It's like, is that all? So most people, and this is the theory, when they manifest money, they'll get there and they're like, oh, I don't feel it's fulfilled. Get to the next goal. They keep going. I had reverse created that. but with my clients' results. So instead of, I had made their service to them the goal. Instead of being a sacral, you need to have stuff that lights you up. And you really can't do that based on someone else's goals. You need to have your own. And it wasn't that I didn't have goals, it was that somewhere along the lines between blurring this business and spirituality, because it's not really blurred, it was trying to keep them separate. I had created this response that was somehow protecting me. I don't really know how, but it became unfulfilling, the very thing they said that would be. So I was like, oh my God. So then I really, once I started building Solid Boardroom and I use it myself, so this is where this a lot of this came through, was when I found this, what's it called? I found this desire, absolute desire for money. And not just any kind of money, good, big money. And I had the reason it came through was because nothing was fulfilling me, right? So I'm getting these results for these customers, and I'm just like, okay. But I had to go really big to awaken in myself this self-love, this connection to my own desires, this my daughter, she's drawn me and colored in this picture on my wall, and it says, "Don't forget to love yourself." I had to really lean into this desire for money. And it's not an ego desire. It's literally my soul is like, this is it. And when I leaned into that, obviously, pipeline to profit came through, or my pipeline came through, which then evolved into Solo Boardroom because it's a sales generating center. It's not for, you're not just having a meeting, you're getting a meeting with executives to generate sales, but also you develop a pipeline to, and they all talk to each other, and then you can have side chats with your different board members and all that kind of stuff. It's very cool. And as I was developing that, I started off with, oh yeah, we might get a mil. We might try for 1 million with this. It's a tech product. Let's see where we go. To this like $100 million vision of what actually is happening across all my brands or across all my products, but still for this brand. I was like, wow. I was like, okay, this is possible. This is what expansion is, right? Expanded founder is, I expanded my mind and made myself, it's not made myself, but opened up the belief that this could actually happen for me, but also that sales was my genius and that money was my genius. And that this story that I had around, you don't have a lot of it yourself. So, blah, 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 blah. There's all these stories in there, blah, 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 blah. You need to look a certain way. And I was like, yes, but you were doing it. You stopped doing it. Why? And it was because I'd stopped my own desires. Back when I was in sales, I always had desires. I was still fulfilled and I was fulfilled by them. So when you say you're fulfilled by money, people are like, yeah, you need to find more meaning. I was like, no, no, actually, I'm fulfilled by money. I'm fulfilled by sales. I'm fulfilled by the connection it gives, by the intuition I use, by the knowledge I have of money negotiation, the tools, the relationships, the ideas. The ideas that drop into my body when I'm selling to transform anybody's life or business form. And I used to walk into agencies and just you'd walk in the room with no money on the table and walk out with $1 million offer, $1 million deal. We we develop relationships obviously to do that, and it's all through connection. But then I was like, how does that translate to online? And it's really the same thing, but it just looks different and we get told it's different, but it actually isn't. Like I do Conversion Killer and I do, it's one of the apps I've built, conversionkiller.app, where you put your URL in, it'll tell you what's wrong with it from a sales point of view. Like I've got so many people in my community of builders And I look at their products and I'm like, that is not going to sell. You need better funnel. You need a better landing page. Like, what are you selling? Who are you selling to? Are you connecting with them? Like that theory. So that app got built because of it with my stuff in the back end. And so I started doing roasts and rebuilding landing pages because I was like, just couldn't help but see how that could improve, which is what happened in when I walked into an advertising agency or a direct. We used to go direct, we used to walk direct clients, whatever it was. But it also was the same thing when I worked with customers in coaching. I'll be like, this is your strategy, here's your offers, this is what you could do, this is your pricing, but aligning from drawing it out of them. Like, yes, ideas would drop. And I go, oh, yeah, I can see this because of my psychic ability or my intuition. I can see your highest potential. But the goal isn't their highest potential, it's mine. And that was what I kept forgetting. And so, like, I had to really understand my needs to get this to flow for me. And one of the needs that I have, I use Tony, I don't do normal like needs. The Calibra GPT app that I built, calibragpt.com, that's an emotional calibrator. So if you're manifesting something and you're out of alignment, it'll get you back into alignment for the energy, and it tracks you through this empowerment spiral that I developed. And so that's there, that does its thing. But this is a different type of needs base that I just learned recently through Tony Robbins. And it lists these six needs. And it's certainty, variety. I don't know the other ones off the top of my head. Certainty, variety, contribution, growth, love and connection. And there's one more. And in that, actually, hang on one second. Let me bring it up because I'm really enjoying it. And it made sense to me. I think I copied it. Significance. So certainty, variety, significance, love and connection, growth, and contribution. Now, these needs are constant. We have all of them, but they're constantly competing for each other. And so I was looking at what need was because I've worked on needs for a very long time. I've been doing this work for 20 years. So my ego and inner child work isn't, I can still do a bit of it, but a lot of it, the certainty and variety, like say, which is certainty is the need for safety, stability, comfort. We all want to feel secure in our lives, and the variety is the need for change, excitement, surprise. Too much certainty feels boredom, which was part of it because it was so easy to predict. I just had become so, which is part of the genius zone. When something becomes your genius zone is something you do with ease for the least amount of time for the most amount of money. And coaching and mentoring, that was very easy. It's very easy for me. But because I'd also gave the goal to their clarity, made the goal their clarity, made the goal my contribution, my service, which is part of it, I had forgotten, and this is what was driving me this whole time, was my need to expand, hence the expanded founder, and my need to improve, evolve, because without growth, life feels stagnant. And that is one of my core needs is growth. And so what happened with that shift and bringing that back into alignment was I had the need to contribute, like originally, which is where that comes in. Even if I went back to sales, I went, well, how am I contributing to the universe? I'm just selling an ad in a cinema or an ad on a page or a radio ad or a newspaper ad or whatever. You do at some point through that journey get a little disillusioned with, yeah, you're just selling a white page. Or I remember someone back right when I started, she was like the PA to the like head of sales or something, or the head of our department. And back when I worked for Kerry Packer back in the day, Channel 9 and ACP, she used to say, just remember, you're just selling a blank page. It's that whole it's not rocket science kind of thing. But there is times through your life when you're selling in media going, is this all I'm meant to be for? What is this meant for? That's how the contribution thing comes alive a bit because you're like, is my life meaningful? And contribution is that need to give beyond oneself to serve and make a difference. So it started off as that, but then eventually if I it's not that I'm not contributing now, like this is what I'm doing with it. But what I decided was my growth is the need that I'm really desiring to fulfill, which is the growth for me is the connection to the divine, but also this idea that I'm expanding all the time. And this growth, this improvement, but it comes up through me. It's my part of the co-creation of what I put out in the world and how that looks. And when you're running a business, you can easily get caught up in this. I can tell you can easily get caught up in that. Nothing was like, oh God. Like when you've been posting on Instagram for 12, 13 years, you just kind of, yeah, I know the trends. I know the trends. And look, your mind will mess with you and go, you need to adjust the landing page more. You're not posting enough. You need to post more. You need to be more consistent. We could agree with that. I could get Solid Boardroom out there by posting every single day and doing all the things that I could do and launch Lead with Sales, a mastermind in Lead with Sales, and like it's all there. But I was looking at it going, it's not my goal. My goal isn't to lead with sales because I am sales. We talk about when you walk in a room and you're holding the room, like you walk into the room. I walk into the room like I am the room. I don't walk into the room like I'm this, I'm that. I'm that connected because I've been doing this work for a long time that we are everything. We are connected to everything. Whenever I'm creating and being there, when I'm not growing, creation for me is growing. Creating for me is growing, like through and sometimes I get that through other means. I went and did a art pathways course when my daughter was younger because I had time when it was around and like things happened that evolved that creativity, hence 4 podcasts and how we got to the expanded founder. But I feel I am a founder, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a solo mum, and I'm a master at sales and I'm a master at intuition. And so it took me a long time to bring them all together and say, what is this really wanting to be out in the world? Because I love creativity, and when you birth something into the world, it has a life of its own. The expanded founder is now going to have a life of its own. It is out there. It is something that's put out onto the planet. It has its own soul. It will grow. It will do what it needs to do. I am part of it right now. I am feeling like the expanded founder, and that's how we got here today. So, thank you for listening. Welcome. Follow for more. And we're only just getting started with this because it's so exciting. We're literally only just getting started. And so I'm really grateful that you've got all the way through this. Sorry, I was just looking up at my phone because I was recording some other things here. This is what podcasting is for me. And so we want to say thank you for listening. If you got this far, blessings to you. If you want to see where you're at as an expanded founder, the quiz is out. So you can jump on expandedfounder.com, jump in, do the quiz. It will give you a workbook for whatever comes out, which will help you go a little bit deeper. And it will also give you some suggestions of what you may need to work with on either side of the coin, whether it's the sales, businessy structure, you need a bit more information about your offers, something like that. And then the intuition, trusting yourself, really aligning. We've got 2 things coming up. One is the pipeline to profit, which is the 2nd of July. I don't know if you'll get this before then. It'll be out, but whether you listen to it, solidboardroom.com is always there for some good structure and to learn how to do your pipeline. We've got Numinous coming up, which is a little 6-week program that I'm doing on intuition, and that is in think it's the 14th of July, 16th of July it starts. And that's weekly. And then they've got other programs and one-on-ones. And then the Expander Founder program is coming. I have no idea what it's looking like, but it's coming. And so this is where we're starting with this beautiful podcast. It is evolved. And thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And I will see you on the internet. I am Erin Chathowan, and this is the Expanded Founder Podcast.